Hello and welcome. I'm your host, author Ryan M. Oliver, and this is the Mighty Books Podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Mighty Books Podcast. Today with me, featured author is Nikhil Prabala. Nikhil, how are you today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure, my pleasure. So we're here to talk about your book, your experiences, all the cool things you're doing. So what's the title of your book?
Yes, my book is titled The Duchess of Kokora.
And what is the Duchess of Kokora about? In a nice synopsis so it doesn't give too much away.
Oh, of course, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah, yeah.
So, the Duchess of Kokora, Farah Ilir Mdana, enters into the marriage games of the neighboring kingdom of Rain, but she's not there to win the dashing Prince Dominic. Her true objective is to win over her ex-fiancé, ex-girlfriend, who is competing as another contestant in the games.
Hmm.
Rom-com, raw-drum hijinks ensue, especially when all three of them, Farah, the Prince Dominic, and her ex, Roselle, all have to work together to
Mm.
stop a duel that threatens the integrity of the kingdom, the stability of the continent, and any chance they have of a happily ever after.
Dun,
I
dun,
do that
dun.
pitch a lot in case that wasn't clear.
That sounded very clear and very well done. So I appreciate your preparedness. And yes, you're it's very that sounds very good. Sounds very
Thank
good.
you, appreciate
Yeah,
it.
no problem. How long is Duchess of Kokora?
In terms of reading time pages, what's the
Hey,
measure we use?
I usually go by word count because I think that's
That
more
that's
accurate.
actually usually more indicative. You're totally right. It
Yeah.
also tells you a lot about the overall genre. Epic fantasy being 150K plus, give or take.
Hmm.
Um, this one is 110,000 words. So
Fabulous.
on the longish side of YA fantasy romance, but not in the epic range just yet.
Okay. Okay. Yep. Perfect. Perfect. Yeah, that's I usually go with the word count. It just makes a lot. I think it's
Oh,
a
for sure, for
better, a
sure.
more accurate ruler to base off like lengthwise.
It totally is.
Yeah. 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 So, what drove you to write Duchess Kokora? What was the inspiration to write this story?
Yes, the inspiration was kind of twofold. First, on a somewhat kind of situational level, it was the middle of COVID. I was living alone. I just finished writing a dark, epic science fiction manuscript, and I was like,
Ooh.
it was a great project. I'm really proud. I plan to come back to it. It was a kind of a Warhammer 40K meets Dragon Ball Z. Yeah, it's good. I am quite proud of
Interesting.
it.
Interesting.
But I was just like living alone, isolated. I'm like, I could really use a fun one. I could really use we just spent a lot of time in a pretty rough situation. Could really use so getting back to my roots, which are more comedy, romance related, kind of when I was,
Okay.
starting out, getting back into that more. And then more specifically for the plot of this story, as I was just like thinking of like kind of fun premises. That in the isekai manga genre, like the reincarnated in another world. That's like the basic
Oh,
premise of this one subcategory of manga, and then within that, there's a subcategory. And there's like four or five different ones with this exact same premise of like reincarnated in the world of a date of a dating sim as the villainess, as like the rival to the like female lead. And I'm reading one of these, and I think it's a popular one. Now it got adapted into an anime. And I'm reading one of these, and like this protagonist, like villain character, has such incredible chemistry with the like female lead in this story, or the quote unquote female lead, or like the typical female player character.
sure,
That
sure.
I'm like, huh, why isn't this more of a thing? Why? Hey, it feels like you guys should be. You're nominally right, but you're getting along just great.
Yeah.
Right? And then thinking lastly about the kind of the comedic premise of like someone going on to The Bachelor, fully ignoring the guy and immediately leaning down on the couch and flirting with them. Like, there's just something inherently funny about that. And I know I chased that premise for a while and then found that amidst the comedy and tropes and fun of it all, there were some genuinely like really sparkling characters that emerged, and the relationships had a a depth and complexity that actually took me by surprise because I
Yeah.
fully intended this to be a pure fun, don't even think too hard kind of project. And that was actually the best thing I could have done because then all of the depth and dynamism emerged much more naturally
Yeah.
than other projects where I really went, I really want to write a particular thing. It emerged very naturally. And then of course, over several drafts, I kept refining that.
Right.
And yeah, kept working on that to make it to where it ended up being in the final draft. What I like to think of as a it's what I love about the romance genre is that it
Mm.
understands very well that you don't need to be somber to be smart,
Yes.
right?
Okay.
There is darker romance out there. There is romance that is kind of heavy, and but like, it also I think a lot of romance, a romantasy, that kind of space understands that like yeah, a story can be fun, it can be lighthearted and comical, but it can also touch on very serious ideas and themes
Hmm.
and relationships. And of course, somber stories also do. Like, but
Yeah.
there's no exclusivity to that,
No.
and that I found really compelling as I worked on this, and it was definitely a major goal of the project.
Absolutely. Well, it sounds honestly, I love stories like that because to me it's more realistic. When you
Mm,
think about like we were just talking, if you don't mind my saying,
please.
you were in you're in San Diego right now, and
Yeah.
you're doing a celebration of life for your grandmother who recently passed. And again, sorry for your loss. But it's a very sad thing. But when you get together with family, your mourning family, or you're celebrating family, there's always that back of the head, there's back of the mind of something bad has happened. We're here celebrating. So it's a sad moment. We're happy. It's this weird kind of like I don't know how to even describe it, but just weird concoction that we deal with on a
Yeah.
day-to-day basis. You can have a really crappy hour on the
Mm,
start of your day, and then by the end of it, you're having a great time. It's just what happens. Dark things happen
yeah.
all the time. Bad things happen all the time to everybody throughout their life. But we also learn from those sad stories or those sad moments, and we try to pull joy and laughter, and usually a lot of us use it as a defense mechanism, me, um, to endure those sad moments. So
Mm.
I actually love that you have twisted that into it. Not even twisted, you just paralleled it into a story.
Yeah. No, I think that's I think the greatest art breaks your heart and puts it back together again. Right? Art that can
Interesting.
only do one thing or the other
Yeah.
is I mean enjoyable. I'm
Hmm.
not it's not a bad thing. Art that really fixates on the dark or the light can still be engaging and tell us things about life. In my experience, the most impactful art does that entire process because life
Hmm.
is both. Life is light and dark, death and life, and these things are inherently connected.
Yes.
And I know I think there's going to be days that no matter what you do, it's going to suck. You're
Facts.
going to feel bad. You're going to feel wretched in some way or for some reason. So enjoy the good ones when you have them, and acknowledge the bad when they're there. That way, you're not carrying it as heavily as you would when you're in the better or the easier or the lighter time
Yes.
frame. Brendan Lee Mulligan, one of my favorite Dungeons and Dragons DMs. I don't know if you ever
I don't, but
partake
I
in
kind of want to
tabletop.
dive into this. Kind of want to
He's
unpack this a little bit,
he's
just because.
incredible.
Yeah.
He has the saying of like whenever he reads dystopian fiction, he always asks himself, "Where are the comedians? Where are the people
Where are the
where are the
jesters?
memes? Where are the people telling jokes? Like that if even in under the most dire and bleak of circumstances and worlds and societies, people are still trying to live. They're
Yeah.
still trying to find joy and have life experiences that are meaningful. And in
Yes.
no way does that undercut or diminish
No.
the awfulness or the evil of the world around them. It's just part of life. In some ways, I think it's what underscores evil. Evil would not be so meaningful if there were not joy and light and good for it to
That's a
tarnish.
absolutely. Well, that spectrum is really important. You cannot have light without the dark and vice versa. So if
Mm.
you go just dark, 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 dark all the time, there's nothing special about it. It's just, oh, it's a normal Tuesday.
Yeah.
Whereas, whereas you've got
Yeah.
this is we had a happy birthday here, we had a birthday celebration, then we all of a sudden we had tragic, tragic, tragedy, tragedy. Now we see that pull back and forth, and that's what really kind of whiplashes our emotions
Yeah.
from one
Yeah.
side to the other. And this is seen, I mean, in how we deal with it. That really shows the character of a person because it's you have those people who are the rocks of the
Mm.
family. And I mean, I've heard stories of my father-in-law, for instance, his older brother. This is many decades now. Older brother has passed away from cancer, and when he found out he had cancer, it was like testicular
Mm.
cancer.
Yeah.
And so, of course, you can imagine the comedy that would come from anything associated with that region, but
Hmm.
you sprinkle cancer in that,
Yeah.
and it's sad. But you know what? Damn it, while he was alive, they made jokes about it.
Because that's how
It's
you deal.
it's how you
That's how
deal.
you deal. Yeah.
Yeah, it's sad, but I mean, I've talked to many folks who have had, I work with a lot of folks in the military bases over
Yeah.
here in Washington, and oh my God, the dark humor
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
just, it's, I love dark humor. I just have that kind of personality. But you don't want tragedy, but you have to come away with having some kind of sanity. And
Yeah.
those comedic people are saving grace, and they can break up the sadness in those darker books.
Yeah.
So is it primarily a comedic? There's a lot
I
of
would say
comedy.
primary. I do want to put a caveat as yeah, this conversation is touching on a lot of things. I want to
It is.
caveat. Yeah, the book is mostly a comedy. Like it is not
Yeah.
that bleak or that
Right.
dark. I would say that the seriousness comes from certain emotional stakes around these
Yeah.
relationships and a certain amount of trauma, a certain amount of things in people's past that they're dealing with. But by and large, it is not. It is not a bleak work. It is a work
Right.
that is mostly light with the little threads because that's
Yeah.
what when you're going through even a light period, there are these threads of
Absolutely.
things in your past or things that remind you of things. It is there's complexity to that.
No kidding. I absolutely. Now we touched a little bit on Dungeons and Dragons. I want to open this up.
Oh,
I
please.
have not done anything with Dungeons and Dragons. I've had friends of mine who have, and they said I would love it. I just haven't dove in on
Mm.
that quite yet in that particular pool. When did you get started? Let's just unpack it. When did you
Oh,
get
absolutely.
started?
The long and storied history of my work as a Dungeons and Dragons DM. So I first got introduced to it in my math teacher's like board game club. And I feel like this, I've heard multiple people say my math teacher's board, like not just this math, but in general, like
That makes a lot of sense.
math teacher to board game to Dungeons and Dragons pipeline is very real. Like calculus is the gateway drug to
Almost a
tabletop
trope
gaming,
at this
apparently.
point. Yeah.
It's an entire subgenre basically.
That's funny.
Um, but yeah, there I first heard about it, although I didn't actually try it until I went to college.
Okay.
It was in there that I went to like a D&D club, and it
Sure.
was an okay experience. I didn't really like vibe entirely with like everyone at the table, and like
Of
the storytelling
course.
was not quite like certain jokes that were like, oh, I don't know, that's a little like it's not that funny. I don't quite resonate with this. Um, and then basically just going to my friends one night because I wanted to keep playing, but I was like,
Mhm.
hey, y'all ever tried Dungeons and Dragons? And they were like, no, that sounds great. So like I just started DMing in the typical DM fashion, which is a group needs someone to do it, and you
Yes.
just do it.
And you just step up.
I have the proud distinction of having run a successful campaign, start to finish, level one to level. I think the highest level player was 17, 16, over a year and a half. Like, and for
Okay.
context, most campaigns never finish. Most
Oh,
campaigns never get to high level and they never finish. Because, they joke, scheduling is the true big bad of any
yes.
D&D campaign. Like Google Calendar is the real nemesis of the party. Like getting everyone to meet. And college is a unique time because you all live within walking distance of each other for the most
Right.
part. Like you're very close by. And you don't necessarily have a lot of free time, but you have very flexible time,
Yeah.
right? Like you
That's
can make it
true.
work in a way that's different from adult life where it's like yeah 9 to 5 I'm pretty locked in. I can't really like except
Yeah.
actually I currently work at a job that gives half day Fridays, which is why I'm able to talk to you right now.
Perfect.
So that actually works pretty great. But in
Yes, it
general,
does.
that's not typical. But yeah, I started it then, and D&D is such a fantastic discipline. It built such incredible bonds, such incredible memories. The storytelling is fun. The comedy
Dude,
is golden.
that.
And some of the most like epic raw lines of writing I've ever done have been in my D&D campaign at like 4 in the morning in our final session when like we've been playing for 14 hours because we're just in it at that point.
Whoa.
I mean, we've devoted like a year and a half of our lives to this, like regular, 2 to 4 hour sessions for a year and a half is a
Yeah.
real chunk of time. So that is,
Truly invested.
we're in it at 4 a.m. and we are just like hashing out all this like big character arc stuff. And
That's so cool.
none of us remember it with anything more than just like a faint haze because it was so late at night. But we all came away with this feeling of like that was a profound moment of like true improv, true in the moment connected storytelling. It's done wonders for my writing. I can't even understate that.
That's what I wanted to kind of dive into. So what factors of the gameplay and the fact that you ran 14-hour sessions sometimes and it's not like you plan it. It's just you're having
Yeah,
fun, you're connecting with good buddies, and we're just going down this damn rabbit hole till we hit the center of the earth because that's
yeah,
who we're at right now.
yeah,
What factors of DMing or Dungeon Master
yeah. DMing.
yeah, DMing. Okay, cool. I'm glad I got that
Hey,
part.
you get the lingo.
Oh, sweet. DMing would translate to you writing stories because I can see it, but I'm sure I don't know people how to do.
Oh, absolutely. And I actually have done occasional workshops with other writers and
No
creatives
kidding.
to actually help with this. And I'm planning to do more at conventions this year, but that's its own thing. We'll talk about later. But
Cool.
what it really is I found that well, it's a couple things. First is that there's an organic kind of nature to dialogue and characterization that emerges in tabletop.
Definitely.
And especially when I'm reading early drafts of my work, every now and then I'll come across a scene or a moment or a bit of dialogue where it's like, oh, what this person said was brilliant, cutting, thematically relevant, and it was like super great for the scene. In no way was it a response to what just happened, and in no way was this like something this person would actually say in
Yeah.
that moment. And it's like, that was me as the author putting in this moment that I wanted to have. And what D&D does is it takes that crutch away from you.
Yeah.
You cannot make your players say or do things unless you're a really obnoxious DM and are somehow like, I don't know, megalomaniacal to a certain degree. You cannot make your players say or do the exact thing that you want. You can set things up,
You
but
can.
they, as characters, are going to make their own decisions. They're going to respond to things in unique ways that sometimes often surprise you, but that are
Hmm.
also often better.
Yes.
Um, Sometimes by virtue of the pure creativity of it, or just by virtue of being what they as people and characters wanted to say and wanted to do
Yeah.
in that moment. Like
Yes.
that is so huge. And getting in that spirit and that mentality of listening. You know, they say in improv, it's all about yes and. It's all about taking what that person did, yes, and saying yes to it, and then adding on. It's not about subtracting or erasing. It's about continuing with that. It's fantastic for that organic kind of development, delivery. It's also great for writer's block. Like the
Yeah.
amount of times that players have asked me, "Oh wait, that random blacksmith you mentioned, what's his deal?" Like that guy, and now I have to come up with an entire backstory for this NPC who was never supposed to have anything to do with the plot. Like I've gotten a lot better at conjuring interesting details about things happening in world. That's more of a world building component, but also like that on the fly thinking really
Oh
requires you to get past
man.
that. I don't know what I'm going to say or I don't know what I'm going to write. But I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to keep going. And it really trains that out of you in a huge way.
Hmm.
I think dialogue also improves.
Yes.
Not just the organic nature of it, but just the like you feel what the natural rhythm of speech is by doing it,
Absolutely.
by saying it, by engaging with it. Um, yeah, I would say yeah. It's the naturalness of character, it's the quality of world building, and it's writer's block. Like
Yeah.
those are the three big things that being a DM helps you with.
When I love how you talk about the organicness of the growth of the story, the characters' dialogue, because I know I have a lot more fun when
Mm.
I just organically, I'm going to say the word vomit all over the page and
You
just,
just go
just,
for it. You just go
just
for it.
go for it. I don't really care about, okay, well, is this really appropriate? Because I pull from my conversations with a lot of my friends and
Hmm.
family members who we're sarcastic. We love to just riff on each other. You know how
Hmm.
it is with friends.
Yeah,
You're not
you just
making
go.
fun of each other. You're not communicating. This is how it is with working with friends. And I pull that. Oh yeah, there's a line.
Yeah,
There's a
yeah.
tone. There's a subtle
If you're
tone.
not capable of teasing, if there's no
Absolutely.
ability to tease, right? If you
Absolutely.
only ever tease, then that might be a little dubious. But like, if it's simply not possible
Right.
to do so,
That's very true. That's very
yeah,
true. If
yeah.
and I've
But yeah,
told people,
I
I've
understood your.
oh yeah, I've told people at work, I was like, if I'm never joking with you or giving you crap, I don't like you. If I do, I enjoy being around you. And they're like, good to know. And I'm
Noted. Thank
usually
you.
jokey
Helpful,
around.
helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I'm usually jokey with most people.
Hmm.
So it's like there's a few who are like, you don't like him, do you? He's not my favorite person. No, but I'll still be cordial because that's how my mama raised
Yeah,
me, and it's
there's
gonna be a
a
thing.
professionalism, a certain kind of just, hey, we're gonna get through this. We're gonna deal. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. Hey everyone, thank you for making it this far into the interview. Hope you're loving it. I just wanted to take a quick moment to tell you about a gift for you all, a free book just waiting to be read. Just visit ryanmoliver.com and hit the button to receive a free book. It's that easy. Also, consider signing up for the newsletter, where each month you'll receive more fun reading to enjoy. That's ryanmoliver.com. ryanmoliver.com. So that organic quality I just absolutely
Mm.
love. So does that cause problems though when you go back to edit your work? Do you add things or you kind of just try to keep it as you originally wrote it?
I would say the problem usually is that, oh, if I've been, flying by the seat of my pants to this draft. It was the
Yeah.
typical pantser, so that they call it.
Oh yeah, the
Are you a
pantser.
pantser? Are you a plotter? Kind of thing. I'm big
Both.
pantser, big all like
I need
I'm
both.
not unless I'm truly writing a work of epic fiction. In which case,
Yes.
I might do a little more sketching out just because there's more world building that has to happen. But
Yes.
in general, when I'm going scene to scene, or I am just going and seeing where the moment takes me. The problem is larger continuity. Like I might
Hmm.
realize, oh, this thread, this theme, this character relationship is actually more important than
Right.
I thought it was, or it actually ended up developing in a little bit of a different direction than
Yeah.
I originally intended or originally thought. So like this first scene and this second scene, like they're not actually like relating well with each other. And there's some
Yeah.
like I often say that like my worst draft is usually always my second.
Interesting.
It's like my first draft is I'm trying to figure out where the story is going. I'm just trying to like
Yeah.
feel it out, and then second draft is trying to make that look like make it look normal, make it look organic, make it look like oh I actually did plan all this and patching all the holes here and there. Um, but at that point in the story, I've basically got like two or three different stories in one draft because I've got
Okay.
the original thing I planned, the thing
Right.
it ended up becoming, and my attempts at making all that make sense. And it's over drafts 3, 4, and 5 that I fix that and make the three different stories come together as one actual, like,
Okay.
connected story. Uh,
Okay.
it becomes a problem in terms of the overall, like, how seamless does the work feel and how, like, intentional do the
Right.
choices seem?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you do want to make it feel into, you do want to make it feel like this is both happening organically, but
Hmm.
also deliberately. And that is a hard balance to strike in creative work. But like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what editing is. That's what the process just is. That's its nature.
Yeah, well, I know it helps to have extra eyes to read it over because when you're so close to a project, you can't
Oh
see
yeah.
the flaws. You're like, no, this is perfect. This is how it goes. Said no author ever. But I will just say, you can like, I can't improve it anymore. And that's
Mm.
when you say that, you give it to people because they will look at it with fresh eyes and know, there's a bit of a continuity issue right here. Like, oh, I would have, if
Yeah.
I was a snake, it would have bit me kind of a situation.
Hmm.
So do you have beta readers that
I,
dive
I,
on
I
your
do.
books?
I have
Okay.
some wonderful friends, fellow writers,
Excellent.
community that really are very supportive. And I would actually push back a little on the. I think you go to a professional editor when you literally can't improve
You
it
do,
anymore.
100%.
I think like you don't wait to do too much editing before sharing it with another person because the amount
Yeah.
of editing you on your first, I mean, you should absolutely give it a pass, like
Yeah,
give it a
you
look see
do
before you
one
share
good
it with
over.
a.
Yeah.
But don't worry about limiting returns at the earliest stage. At the
No.
earliest stage, like you do a couple editing passes, and then I go to like my beta readers because they see things that I would genuinely not like even if I would have seen it with enough work, right? Like
Yeah.
it's just best to get that cycle started early. I've been very lucky with my readers. They've been very helpful.
Good.
Um, especially with my most recent work, they got like a lot of great advice about, hey, Nick Hill, this like kind of wild, fun, hot air balloon, a fade to black sex scene, fantastic. Loved it. The relationship dynamics of it, the conversation about it, amazing. A chapter later, when we have this like page-long speech about the nature of monarchy in this country, not necessary, especially for this genre. Like also like also a little out there, but also really not necessary. Like,
Yeah.
noted. Thank you.
Yeah.
There's that balancing, of like I have a tendency to like really get into philosophical uh kind of topics in my work in a way that's often too direct. And
Yes.
that I have to tone down across I mean, I do try to make sure it's woven in there. It's
Well,
worth
yeah.
being there. But like also you like there concision, brevity, and being deliberate with your writing. You have to pick and choose. You can't cover every topic. I've seen so many stories, especially on the screen, but I think also in books to some degree that try to do too much.
Hmm.
They really try to do way more than they should have,
Yes.
and they end up not doing any of it very well.
Right.
It's
That's a problem.
paring things down appropriately
Yes.
is a another part of the editing process.
Yeah.
In early drafts, I don't think about that. I'm just like whatever feels right to me when I'm in the moment when I'm having fun with it. Hey, that's what
Yeah.
goes, and then we edit down.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to edit something you already have versus create brand new. It takes so much more energy to
Oh yeah.
create something out of nothing. It's so much more energy. But versus taking something you've already done and going tweak this, move this around, cut this, add this, so much simpler that way. And it can be it can be kind of tedious at times. But if you're not, in my opinion, if you're not having fun with the editing process, you probably didn't write something interesting. So it
Interesting.
could be that way. Now, granted, there's also the caveat of I've read this before. I wrote this. I probably read it two other times. I'm a little tired of it.
Yeah, yeah,
That's where I'm like, I need to have fresh eyes to look at it. Then
yeah,
I tweak it enough. All right, I feel like I'm done. I need to give it to somebody else who's professional, like you said,
yeah, yeah.
and let them take it on. So that's good. Do you have a pretty good relationship with your professional editor?
Oh yeah, she's fantastic. Nancy, she's really amazing. Honestly, the feedback she gave, the great editors really know how to make your voice shine through and the story you're trying to tell
Yes.
shine through. Like the kind of like fine editors will basically retell the story in their voice. I've had samples
Hmm.
done from different editors, and that's the primary difference I've noticed is that like the
Interesting.
kind of so-so ones will really try to retell the story in their voice and how they would make
Yeah.
this happen. It's the great ones who can maintain your tone of voice and your approach to things and provide feedback that is
Yes.
making that come through better instead of just,
Interesting.
edits and suggestions of like, hey, you should write this my way because that's how this dialogue would sound in my head. And Nancy was fantastic in that
Oh,
regard. She
good.
really had great advice. And also she was very helpful with the overall publishing process afterwards. She had a lot
Oh,
of great
good.
advice about that and how to navigate that. So, profoundly grateful.
That's fantastic. And now, how many books? So, is Duchess of Kokora your first book, or do you
It's
have
my
other ones out?
debut. I've written other
Debut. Okay.
manuscripts, but this is
Okay.
my first published work.
Okay. Okay. Just want to figure out. And how long has it been out? When did it release?
It released August 8th of last year.
Oh my
So
goodness.
I think we're almost tomorrow would be the 6 month anniversary.
That's fantastic. And so
Yeah.
so far, what is feedback? What feedback have you
Oh, it's
gotten?
been fantastic.
Swell.
Largely,
Good.
largely very positive, very warm
Good.
reception. I was very pleased to see that. I've gotten yeah, but both from the Goodreads reviewers and folks on social media have really responded
Fabulous.
positively to it. They love the comedy. They love the mix of it with the depth. The characters are exciting.
Hmm.
The love interest is divisive.
Hmm.
Some people really love her. Some people think like no, like there's a certain kind of like and that's how I know I've written her well as a character.
Yeah.
If everyone likes all of your characters universally, you
Yeah.
probably haven't written too interesting of a character.
Right.
What I like about Roussel is that she is interesting.
Yeah.
Some people really resonate with her, and some people like and understand her and find her engaging, but find certain dimensions of her personality frustrating. And that's
Yes.
to me the sign of a very realistically portrayed character. People respond to Farah, the protagonist, also in a similar way, although I think more people like her overall. That tends to be a very positive reaction. Um, Overall there. I was very lucky to partner with Adjoa Andoh. She plays Lady Danbury in Netflix's
That's
Bridgerton.
that's freaking cool. When I saw
Yeah,
when I read that in your bio, I'm like, no fucking way. So I pulled it up, I looked, and I'm like, my wife loves Bridgerton, and I've watched it with her a few times,
yeah,
and it's very well done.
yeah.
I saw, I'm like, I actually really like her
Oh,
character.
she's
I
fantastic.
I like her character, and I'm like, okay, how did you get how did this happen? Okay, you got to tell me about how this happened.
So here's the long and short of it. I was just looking for voice actresses to do
Yeah,
the audiobook. And I'm scanning through just agencies and the like. Oh, trying to see, who's the talent that's available, who's
yeah.
some good folks. And I I see her and I see the face and I'm like, wait a minute, I know you. Who is this? I look her up. I listen to her Pride and Prejudice audiobook. I know she did Ancillary Justice by Anne Leckie, a really well-regarded sci-fi series, a bunch of other works. She did the recent run of Austen and Bronte classics from Penguin, and she's done like
Okay.
I think 200 audiobooks over the course of it. Like she
Holy
is
cow.
I mean, she's regarded not ironically as like the queen of sound and screen. Like she really does. She is a incredibly talented
She's a wonderful
narrator.
voice.
Oh, she's
She's a
an
wonderful
incredible
voice.
voice. I knew when I listened to her Pride and Prejudice, the way she performed it basically felt like a teledrama. I felt like I was listening to an entire cast of people performing. Her range, like as a DM in D&D, you have to do voices and characters, and like
You got to appreciate
I
that.
thought I was good. She is next level.
Top
I mean,
notch, top notch.
there's an order of magnitude here. Um, that was staggering. So I reached out to her agent, and her agent was like, "Well, she might be busy, but send us the book." So I did, and she read it and liked it enough to do the project. She read the book
Wow.
and say, "Yeah, I can do this. This will be a fun thing to engage on." And it turned out and it's wild to be on an email thread where someone literally says, "Hold on, I have to check about my filming schedule for the next season of Bridgerton before I can commit to that." That was a like I feel like I am interacting with a real famous person. I don't know if I'm famous just yet, but this is wild for me.
That is so
Um,
cool. It's like,
yeah,
I
so
think I've made it. Have I made it? Where's my valet?
there's a constant like that was extremely validating. I won't lie. I listen to that audiobook more frequently than I should, given the fact that I have a lot of other projects to be working on. And I think also a really cool thing that happened was that Shondaland heard about the project, and they love covering stuff that is in in their general like orbit, right? Adjoa being
Okay.
connected, and they listened to the audiobook and gave a really flattering review and interview
Oh, cool.
and with their press, which really meant a lot.
Wow.
I really admire their work as a studio. Grey's Anatomy, Bridgerton, which the soundtrack of Bridgerton was basically on loop repeatedly while I was writing some of these drafts of this manuscript, because they understand what they are about. Every
Mhm.
product they put out there, it is evidently clear that they know what they do and don't care about thematically, aesthetically, relationship wise. Like what there's such a clear sense of purpose in the
Mhm.
storytelling, and that really shows in how well executed
Yeah.
every product they put out is. Even if individual ones are not necessarily your cup of tea. Like, I'm not a huge fan of Scandal. It's another
Sure.
product of theirs.
Yeah.
But like, I can tell every time I watch, like I know what kind of story you're trying to do. I know what kind of like themes and emotions and things you care about, and you are executing on those things flawlessly because you have such a clear sense of like directorial writing, storyboarding purpose, and
Yeah.
that's the kind of thing that I wanted to bring out in my work of like I know
You have a vision.
it needs to emerge naturally,
Yeah.
right? But like once you set those parameters in your head, the rest does emerge naturally. Once you set that vision, that headspace, that vibe, for lack of a better word, you can let these things emerge, and that's what I think Shondaland does so well, that's why it was particularly meaningful
Yeah.
to have them sort of say some pretty nice things. I'm not going
Oh,
to quote a few.
sure.
They said some pretty
Oh,
nice things
pat
about the
yourself
book.
on the back. That's pretty damn impressive. You
It
know what
was
I mean?
good. It was
That
good.
that's super. That is awesome. I mean, I love seeing people get that kind of notoriety and get that kind of feedback going. Yeah, this was actually really darn good. And thank
Yeah.
you for writing it. And we love it. And here you go. I mean, I love giving people credit where credit's due. I've always
Mm.
been that kind of
Yeah.
person. Just I want to see that happen because later down the road, hopefully it happen for, everyone else as well.
Absolutely.
If
Yeah.
you've earned it, you've earned it.
Writing is one of those hard things of like you oscillate so rapidly between like I am the most wretched creature in all of God's creation to like I am an incredible, brilliant artist. Like the swing on that is pretty brutal. I think I've developed a better sense of feedback and
Yeah.
critique and some perspective on that, having published
Yeah.
this work of like, I mean, people have brought up like legitimate critiques of legitimate criticism, in addition to the like wonderful lavish praise, which I've already mentioned. They have like legitimate criticism of like, yeah, I think this moment didn't quite land with me, or like I wished we had more from this character, or like
Yeah.
the world building was good, but I could have used certain explanations could have been a little bit better developed in certain moments, and that's all very valid stuff that I'll
Yeah.
definitely take with me to the next book. But it's also like there are entire classrooms of people who sit around dissecting and lambasting the greatest works of literature that humankind has ever
Right.
produced. There is no perfect novel. As long as there are some people who love it, that's what you really, and also like the interesting thing about like likes and dislikes is that a lot of the time a person will dislike your work because it just wasn't what they wanted.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
wasn't what they wanted from the story or
From
from
you
from this
or
book.
from them.
And
Yeah.
I often like the 5-star reviews tell me what is lovable about the book. The 4-star reviews tell me what is actually wrong with it. Right? Like that is usually where I can tell like okay, this is a person like this is the target audience, and this is why they were not quite in love with the story. They liked it. They genuinely enjoyed it. They probably read the next one.
Yeah.
But like this is what quite didn't
Fell
quite like.
in
That's where
love
you
with it.
actually know where things weren't quite right. I think the threes I've not gotten a 1-star yet. Yet.
That's
I'm
good.
waiting. I'm waiting.
That's good.
Um the threes and twos, it's usually like I wasn't in the mood for this or I didn't like this
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah.
If that's useful for anyone out there listening, for context, hey, writers
Yeah.
out there, that's a common pattern.
And it's so hard to get used to like you're putting yourself out there. And
Oh yeah.
especially for if I mean you how long did you work on the story for?
So I work full time, so that's part of why some of this takes a little
Oh
longer.
yeah,
But
same here.
about 2 years, start to
Okay.
finish. Yeah,
So yeah, 2 years of your
you put
life.
yourself into it in a big way.
It
Yeah,
is, it's part of you. I mean,
yeah.
people are like, oh, it's not me. But like, no, bullshit. It's
No, it
you.
is.
You look at
Yeah,
this, it's you in a nutshell. It's your
yeah.
ideas, your thoughts, your interest, the dialogue, boom, right there.
And,
It's
and
how
your
you
feelings and where you're
so
at in your
hard.
life. I think the amount of
Yes.
times I read an old manuscript of mine and be like, oh, that is a disturbingly accurate portrait of my mental state at that point in time. Or when I even read my most recently released work, I read
Yeah.
that and I understand, oh, here's a dynamic or a dilemma I was struggling with. Here's
Yeah.
a part of myself that I find flawed and I
Yeah.
struggle to work with and I struggle to balance. Or here's some part of me that I like. Here's like
Yeah.
it's all of those dimensions all at once. If you
Snapshots.
write a story and don't feel any kind of way about the feedback people give,
Mhm.
right? Then you probably didn't put enough of yourself into the work to make it emotionally resonant. But also, if you write a
Very
story
good
and you
point.
feel all kinds of ways about the feel, you're probably a little too like close to it, and you're probably a little too like you need.
Yeah.
There's a balance, right? There's a middle ground there that's hard to strike, and that I've been developing with this time.
It is, and I love that are talking about aiming at just put it out there anyway. Because I mean,
Yeah,
you put all this work into it, and it's so hard. I think it's a maturity thing as we get older. We're just like
yeah.
kind of like criticism be damned, because you're gonna have people who, like you said, resonate with it.
Yeah.
People who aren't even in the mood. They're just not big readers, and it's
Or,
fine.
or even big readers of the genre,
Or
especially.
big
Yeah,
read,
yeah,
right? And I've had friends and family of mine who've read it. And like, I'm not even really big into fantasy, but I read it and I enjoyed it. Like, oh, that's great. That's high praise
yeah,
from someone who doesn't read that much, or whatever. And it's people who are big into it will say X, Y, Z, and that's okay. You
yeah,
take that and you go and you grow. As long as you take what you learned, you put it to the next project.
yeah.
Fabulous. And actually, that leads me to my next question: is what next projects? Do you have a second book of Duchess of Kokora coming
I
out?
do. So The
Okay.
Duchess of Kokora is first in a planned series. I'm currently
Okay.
writing the sequel. This one is probably going to be epic fantasy in terms of its overall
Sweet.
scale and scope. I kind of like that. Did you ever play Final Fantasy VII?
I did not, but I've got friends who love Final Fantasy.
So in fairness, I only ever played the remake, but I've heard
Okay.
I think the remake follows a similar structure of like the first quarter, third of the game, you're stuck in one city.
Uh-huh.
But you really get to know the characters. Like you're in this
Okay.
one very focused part of the world. It is expansive, it is interesting, it is engaging, but you don't got into this like massive fantasy world until you do all of that. I love and anime and manga do similar things. Like the first story arc is usually pretty focused. That way you
Yes,
get engaged with the
as it
characters and then
should
even
be.
before. And that's what I like. That's what book one sort of is. It really is a focused kind of slice of this world and these characters. And book two, potentially book three, we'll see how the series sort of unfolds, is following these characters as they, you know,
Explorer.
I don't
Yeah.
want to. This is not a spoiler. Book one is about, yeah, her trying to pursue this person, and book two is about the consequences of that pursuit.
That pursuit. Yeah.
They really, all three of these characters make a lot of decisions that have big consequences that we're sort of seeing unfold in the larger world.
Yeah.
And that's what the book two is really going to explore. In addition to the evolving romance, these things are not fully settled in stone. Nice thing about the series is that these
Yeah.
things develop with time. So that's in the works. I'm currently also and a bunch of other projects in varying states of completion. I have a story about a skeleton. The protagonist is a skeleton that was animated during a classic war of good and evil, but then the war
Interesting.
ended, so now he's just alive. So fast forward 300 years. By day, he's an accountant in like an urban fantasy setting. By night, he's a private detective. He doesn't need to sleep. So he just needs things to do with his life. His best friend is a former queen of the elves who, with the monarchy being done, like no, like what's the point of having a queen? She's kind of just a B-list celebrity, and like it's just like these immortals trying to figure out what makes their life worthwhile, and this kind of
That
like
is hilarious.
comedic Pratchett-esque
Would it
sort of
almost be
setting.
considered like satire in a way too, a little bit?
Yes, I would
Maybe?
say slightly satirical. Yeah, I
Okay.
would put that in that kind of fantasy satire, again, kind of
Okay.
Pratchett genre where he like kind of lovingly tweaks some noses about certain
That's so
concepts of
cool.
fantasy. That one's in progress. I've got of course my epic science fiction that I want to get back to. That's probably going to
Oh.
wait for a little while. I'm gonna put that on the back burner a little bit because I think that's I refer to it this way. It's gonna be my magnum opus when I actually get
Yeah.
to it. I think a couple years down, maybe I really gun for it, or maybe I find the time and inspiration. I just edit it now. I want to take
Yeah.
the learning I've got from my recent writing and bring it there. And lastly, actually not lastly, sorry, two more. Um, and these
Busy
are all
guy.
these are all works in progress.
Yeah, me too. I've got so many of those too.
I've got a kind of like a fun, just male romantasy, like a queer but with male pairing, a
Sure.
romantasy novel about like a prince rescue a knight rescuing his prince from sorcerer kind of. It's like pretty. The world building's kind of crazy. It's kind of a prequel to my series, but like
Oh, cool.
thousands of years prior. So it's
Oh,
not
okay.
it's functionally standalone. But I currently, at least, I'm putting it in the same world. Maybe that will change. Maybe I'll split it up. But that's in the work. And then lastly. I've got a cozy frontier fantasy about a husband and wife dwarf team that like go and like prospect for oil. They're like oil prospectors in like a fantasy world. Think like, 100 years after the fall of Mordor, they discovered oil in that land. So now they're just out there like it doesn't literally take place in the Lord of the Rings
No, no,
world.
I
It's like
gotcha. I
that
gotcha.
kind of setting.
Yeah.
I wrote a short story for a contest a while ago that had this premise, and I was like, wow, I really like these characters. They are so wholesome and sweet and funny. And I'm from Texas originally, so
Yeah.
I have some of the vernacular and some of the vibe
Perfect.
that I can bring to the work, which I really do like.
Dang, it sounds like you got a pretty good breadth of like genre too, kind of all over. And I say all
Yeah.
over the place in a good way because
Oh,
you
for
can,
sure, for sure.
you have what do you call range? You got good range on the
Yeah,
genres.
I
And
like to think so.
yeah, yeah. I'm well. You can bring aspects of each one into the story. And again, I don't like. I hate having being pigeonholed as just
Oh God,
one
yeah,
one
yeah, yeah,
type because I'm branching out into various genres also, bringing those into the stories I'm creating right now, and it's just
yeah,
more fun. It's
yeah,
just like
yeah,
it's just like sprinkling the dark with the light and making it
yeah.
into something. It's more realistic. We're not just one thing. We're not just one happy or sad
Absolutely.
or meh. We're all three. We're all everything. So multiple genres. This is great.
Yeah,
Now,
that's what I love in fiction. And I think as long as the voice and the quality of storytelling and the overall like that, if
absolutely.
there's some consistency there, that's like your authorial brand, I
Yeah,
guess. And then the rest can be however you want to evolve or explore that with
yeah.
time.
Yeah, the only challenge I know I'm trying to kind of
Mm,
figure out is between like I've got like epic fantasies and I'm looking at even doing children's books. I used to work with kids, so it's like
mm,
dividing because that's
mm.
definitely two different audiences. Dividing the two that way they don't get confused with finding me. Oh, he's a children's author, but he's
Oh,
also writes kind of sometimes dark fantasy. It's like,
yeah, yeah.
how do you differentiate that? That might be something to look into.
That's a fantastic question. I feel like the only real I don't know, I sort of push back on it a little bit 'cause I feel like the only real differences between like children between YA and adult really it's just like how graphic is the story.
Yeah, yeah,
Right. So
yeah.
if you read a
Violence
YA
versus sex.
title,
Yeah.
there might be a 12-year-old who picks this up versus a 17-year-old. And those are
That's
very
the
different,
problem.
levels
Yeah.
of thing there. But in terms of like I always think about the Redwall series. Did you ever read that one?
I have not.
It's about like
Red
it's
Wall.
basically like epic fantasy for children. Like in terms
Oh,
of
okay.
it is like 20 books total in this
I
insane
have.
world with these like ancient legacies and lore, and it's about
Cool.
these like animal creatures that sort of just like I don't know, they have these incredible adventures. Like there's like mice and stoats and otters and like there's like all these different factions that are sort of at play in this world. Um, and like when I think about that, like yeah, it was the thematic complexity. Like, there was a certain amount of like thematic complexity that differentiates this from like epic, adult epic fantasy versus children. But like
Right.
it's also not that different. Or like the Warriors series by Aaron Hunter. That's basically
Okay.
epic fantasy for kids, tweens, and YA. Like
Right.
there's a certain like I don't know. I feel like yeah, it's the content warning of it all that I feel like I have to sort of differentiate on, and that I can usually do either. There's like literal trigger warning sites that are out there for like tracking that stuff, so that you can like.
Sure.
I often put it for like concerned parents who come by this, like if I'm doing a signing and there's a parent like, oh, my kid wants to buy your book, and I'm like, I look at the kid, and if they look like six, I'll be like, all right, this is. I get that they liked the cover and they
Yeah.
were engaged by it, but like, hey, I'm a level with you. This is probably not appropriate. Or if they're like a little bit older, I'll just say, hey, you know what? It's your call to make ultimately, but like
Yes.
I have this like here's like two chapters in the book that are like the most graphic of anything. And like if you read these and you're like
That's a good
fine
way
with
to
your
put
kid
about
reading
it.
it, then like hey, then this is fine for your kid. I think
Yeah.
that's the sort of thing that is usually helpful in differentiating. But I know there's a reason authors use different pen names. There's a
Right.
reason they have different pen names for different works. I
Yeah.
don't want to do that. I would love to be
I don't
associated
want
with
to
all of my
either.
work,
So do
but
I.
I could see that happening, especially if I branch out too far afield. As long as I stay in
Yes.
fantasy and I don't go all the way to literal children's fantasy,
Right, right,
I
right.
think I'm okay. But I think you're probably you're running a harder line.
kind of that, yeah,
Yeah.
that kind of edge there. So I mean,
Yeah.
it could be as simple as dropping a middle initial or something like that, or just whatever, changing it up enough where it's not coming up. But I don't know. I'm still playing
Yeah.
with the idea, but it's
It's hard. It's
always
hard.
it is, but
The,
it's
the business of being an author is a totally different
it,
game.
oh my God, it so
Yeah.
is. I never thought that when I sat down when I was 15 when I started writing anything.
Same. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I want to write a book because I have all these stupid ideas in my head.
Yeah.
And I started writing things down, and then 15 years later, finally got the damn thing finished. It was like, oh, okay.
Hmm.
Now what? Oh, I write another book. Oh, well, how do people learn about it? I don't know. What's this?
Hmm.
I have to get these numbers and these covers and editors and
Yeah.
marketing. What's marketing? Marketing is a whole other beast
Oh
in the
wow. Yeah.
closet.
And
It's
it's
just
changed so much, and it changes
it
so
is
much with every. Yeah.
and it changes every year. I swear
Yeah.
to God. I just got done talking to somebody about this too. It's you pick up books to read on marketing, try to understand the market and how people receive books or find books and how they play to it. And then it changes in 6 months because something else comes out or it
Yeah.
becomes less relevant or it's not as cool. I don't know. It just changes so much. So it's hard to stay on that eight ball
Oh, absolutely.
to try
Absolutely.
to get your books out to people. It's a challenge. It's a huge challenge. How do you navigate the marketing field, if you don't mind my asking?
Well, I'm lucky. So I went to a PR firm actually because
Oh, okay,
I had no
that's
social
right.
media presence. I had no Instagram, no TikTok, none of it. I mean I'm proficient in the usage, I guess.
Sure.
I'm fluent in internet,
Yeah.
for lack of a better phrase. But
Yeah.
like I
Same.
don't exactly have that experience or even that platform. Um, they were really quite helpful
Good.
in putting that together, and that's a trade-off, also like I work as a software engineer, so I have the resources to afford hiring
Totally.
a PR firm, and that's not available to everyone. That can be a
No.
hard thing. I would suggest to anyone out there that marketing on social media matters, but also I've heard from like really, successful like influencers on social that doesn't always matter. It depends what you market, and
Right.
also going viral is not always a guarantee of people actually getting your book. They might just like engage with the content and just be cool with it, and like
Yeah.
that there's I think the important thing is to like, publishing, writing, authorship is a long game. It is not a short game.
Yes. Oh.
Unless you're like Pat Rothfuss, who wrote
Oh my God.
his first ever book. It came out, or if you're extremely successful, like I went viral and people bought the book, kind of thing.
Right.
That almost never happens. Don't
No.
bank on that.
Perfect
Like
storm situations.
have a presence so people can find you. Have a presence so that you
Yes.
can slowly build over time a general awareness of your existence as an author. But don't chase virality. Don't
Yes.
it will drive you crazy. It will make you unhappy, and it won't
Yes.
work as well. You cannot actually game the system that way.
No,
You
you
just have to
can't.
keep putting your work out there. Yes, follow some trends, engage with the communities online, but
Yeah,
keep at it. Do events. In-person events can be a great way of,
they
I feel like you're
can.
more likely to develop, like, I think about it this way. Amongst your readers, you've got readers, people who just, like your book, will read it. You got fans, people who like your book and will
Want
probably
it.
find other stuff in your can and then you got super fans. You have the people who will do all of the rest of that and they will talk about your book. They will like
Yes.
they will tell people about your book because they are so excited about. I've been lucky enough to have some of those
Oh, that's
in
so
the release of
cool.
my book, and that's what those are the things you really want to get, and you don't get that with virality on social media. You get, I mean, you can. Like, every reader that you capture is potentially a
Yeah.
chance to get a new one, but like it really is like go to bookstores, like go in person to a bookstore and be like, hey, I write this thing. I would love to tell you about it. Bring material, bring an actual print paper with some information about you, the book, contact material with you to the store and talk about it.
Yeah.
Do signings, do tabling,
Hmm.
put yourself out there, take
Yeah.
risks, take big, like I think about it this way, like success is 1,001 steps. The first thousand are very small. The last one is very big, right?
Mm.
And the purpose of those those first thousand is to put you in the position where you can take that really big one and it will actually matter, right? Like you
I like
can't
that.
take that big step until you put in the thousands of hours of writing and practicing and actually making the book happen. Then you take the big step of reaching out to that really famous voice actress to try to see if she wants to. You have to put yourself in the position.
To be successful. Yeah.
Luck is about having the opportunity, but so much of it is about being in the position to take advantage of the opportunity, and that is all effort, and that
Mm.
is all like
Yes.
that is all that first thousand steps is that last step. Like you have to take the risk, but the risk in order for the risk to actually matter to mean something, so much else has to have gone into it by then. So and that's
100%.
what you have to that's the stuff that you can really control.
Absolutely. Very wise words. I love
Okay.
all that work. And it's so when you hear about people say, "Oh, they're an overnight success." It's like, yeah, it was a
Uh,
long ass night. That was 10
yeah,
years, man.
yeah.
Like 10
There
years.
was one night where it sort of happened,
Yeah.
but like up until that, like to get to that
Yeah.
night.
Yes, I had a lot of work to put together. It takes so much time. I mean, just I always equate writing a book and I call the author your authorship,
Hmm.
okay, as building a house or building a structure,
Yeah.
and it takes a lot of planning, time, work, and it always whenever you're mudding and taping your painting, you're down to actually putting things on the walls for
Hmm.
decorating. People don't see all the extra steps you took to make
To
sure
make
this
it happen.
house, to
Oh
make it
yeah.
happen, make sure that this thing is solid,
Yeah.
stable, people can enjoy. And it's so hard for people who don't live in this world
To
to
get it.
understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah, to understand
Yeah.
that. So I'm sure people want to follow you, figure out where you are, read your stories. Where can they do that?
Yes. So of course I'm on socials on Instagram and TikTok as N Prabala. That's my first letter of my first name and then my last name as the handle. Quite simple. Nice.
Yes.
My website is my full name, nikhilprabala.com. My books are available with you can order it either. If your retailer doesn't have it, you can order it. If they already have it, fantastic. I'm glad my
Right.
marketing worked. Um, every online retailer should be carrying it as well, available in ebook and of course audiobook with the incredible Adjoa Andoh.
That's super cool.
Yes, yes. And
Yes.
then I will be having I do regular signings in both Austin and the Bay Area. I work in the Bay. I visit Austin for family quite frequently. And then of course I will be doing some convention appearances this year. I'm going to be paneling virtually
Fabulous.
at Balticon. I will be there in
Wow.
person at the Bay Area Book Festival in Berkeley. I will also be at Comic Palooza in Houston for a panel that Friday.
My
It's
goodness.
a romantasy author panel, and then I'm still waiting to hear back from others, but the last one I have on my docket currently is Worldcon
Okay.
in Seattle. Held this year in Seattle. I will be doing
Hey,
some amount of paneling programming. I don't know
that's
the
cool.
details still to come, but I will be there. Worldcon's kind of it is the sort of like it's the event for sci-fi fantasy. If you're not already planning on attending, you might want to consider it.
I might
It's
want
a
to.
really cool space to be. I didn't really know about a lot about it
No.
until I published and met other authors. And I want to say again, that community has been so helpful. Like knowing other authors really
Yes.
makes a difference in learning about what's even. I would never have even known to apply to these festivals until I'd heard from my other friends. Oh, hey, these are some good books to look at. But yeah, Worldcon, it's where they present the Hugo Awards. I believe the group that puts it together actually also does the voting for it. I am not nominated for.
Wow.
I want to be very clear.
No, but
I
totally.
I am
But
not nominated. But like
this is
it is
cool to
that kind of
go.
event. It's a cool. A lot of great artists. A lot of great people attend the event.
That's
Both,
so neat.
folks are speaking and just attending. It's a really great place to be. If you're an author and if you can make it to Seattle and can just, check it out for either the full time or part of it, it's a great place to meet other people in the community, get
That's
connected,
amazing.
and otherwise engage with the craft.
That is amazing. I will definitely take a look at that because
You
my
should.
goal is to expand locally, which I am close to Seattle, about an hour ferry ride
Oh,
away.
that's yeah, very doable. Yeah,
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 so hour ferry ride away from or 2 hour and a half drive, whatever.
yeah,
To expand to local here and just to try to get more great voices and stories like yourself out
yeah.
there to
I
get,
appreciate that.
yeah, pedestal to speak from, you know what I mean?
Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
And I definitely count that as a blessing where this has really helped me talk to folks like yourself and people from all
Yeah,
around the world. I've learned so much just in the last couple years doing this. It's so
it makes
fun
such a
when
difference. It makes
it
such a difference.
so does, and it's kind of a supportive community where
Yeah.
you don't feel like you're on an island struggling. Everyone else has their own struggles too, and so
Yeah, I
that's
think by virtue of writing and publishing and the business of writing being so challenging on authors, whether it's traditionally published or indie published, like
yeah,
I don't know a single person in that who has not been like this is tough. Like that kind of encourages a sense of community, a
yeah,
sense of fellowship, and a real care for one another. That's really meaningful. And
100%.
bookstores do love showing off local authors, so you should
They do.
absolutely hit up the stores in Seattle. Tell them about your book.
Yep.
Try to do an event. It will really. They tend to really groove on that stuff.
Yeah, I got my second novel coming out here this year, next year. We'll figure it out.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
still in the works. You know how it
I know
goes.
the feeling.
Yeah, I want it earlier, but you know how it goes. But that
Yeah,
is definitely that's in the works. Hopefully we can make
totally.
that happen. That'd be really fun. Yeah, just trying to get out more. So, but
For sure. For sure.
anyway, Nikhil, this has been very fantastic conversation. I'm super glad we can make this happen, and I wish
Likewise.
you all the great success you have in the world. Sounds like you're doing wonderful things.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much, Ryan. And of course, same to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And future state, when you get your other books out, I'd love to have a touch base, come
I would
back and
love to
chat
do a
again.
follow-up. Hell
Oh,
yeah.
oh yeah, that's what I want to do. Just check in on people. It's like, chatting with old friends. It's great. I love this.
Yeah.
So it's good times.
Sounds good.
Yeah. All right, guys. I
All
hope you
right.
had a great day. Hope you guys enjoyed this and learned all the things that Nick Hill is putting out and some great wise words. Go check out his book, Duchess of Kokora, out now on all the places. Just go check it out. It's awesome. All right. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. And as always, stay mighty and keep reading.